Hey, welcome back. Happy Christmas. The last time we were here, we were looking at Duncan and all the other riders going to the COP21 talks in Paris, riding away from the ferry in Dieppe. And Duncan's back to tell us all about it. Hey Duncan, good to see you back.
Good to be back. We made it.
Yeah, so, before we get to the good stuff, just for continuity from the previous show, yeah, you were riding away. No, you didn't go straight to Paris.
No, well, we took a pretty direct route, but we did Dieppe and Rouen, a little place called Fresnes, a bit west of Paris, and then into Paris on the the Thursday of that week. Yeah.
Sure, and apparently there's some quite cold days and some wet days before you got there.
Every kind of weather. We were blasted with rain on the first day. We had gorgeous sunshine and we're picnicking out in it on the second day in France. On the third day, it was absolutely freezing cold and a headwind. So we had all weathers.
Sure,
but we were smiling throughout. Actually, through the worst of it, we kept smiling.
Yeah,
so,
it did look like. From the photographs I've seen, obviously, the photographs and on Facebook and always show the more positive side, the more the grueling. But it did look like a bit of a jolly.
It was. I mean, the conditions were grim, but I think there was such at times. But there was such a great mood, and 125 of us all riding together. I think we just got each other through it. To be honest, so it's often like that, isn't it? When you do a kind of a group mass activity, you've got people behind you, and that really showed it. And I think some of us would have been sobbing, to be honest, if it had not been for that. So it was great. It was
great. Because I remember catching up with you on the ferry, and already like you and Joe and others were all kind of been missing some sleep, bit anxious, especially with the news coming in with the clampdown on street protesting.
Sure, yeah.
All of a sudden, like, well, we're all booked and we're all going. There's over 100 of us, more like 200, and we're going to Paris.
Yeah.
Mildly anxious, a bit tense, but at the same time all excited, and we're going to do it. And it just seemed like a real mixed bag of emotions, but I found it quite exhilarating.
Yeah, I think the whole thing was. Absolutely. And like you say, we were exhausted from the start because we've been working hard on this, planning it, and never enough hours in the day or the night. And but I don't know, the adrenaline just got us through. So we were very, very positive throughout and determined to get there and in good time. And we were greeted along the way everywhere we went. We had friendly toots and waves. As we got off the ferry in Dieppe, the mayor of Dieppe was there, which we had no idea.
I got off before as a foot passenger before the bicyclists walked in. Yeah. Saw some old guys, come up with the Justice Climatique in French, which I hadn't actually seen before being met by these guys who were really enthusiastic. And then I realised within a minute that my pidgin French ran out quite quickly. I was like, je ne parle pas très bien. And of course the mayor spoke English.
Yeah, sure, and we had an impromptu rally and the roundabout outside the ferry terminal, with all of us gathered there with bikes and flags and all the rest of it, and he addressed the crowd. This whole issue about climate change and the talks in Paris, it's as much about social justice as it is about climate, because there's this incredible inequality, global inequality, where it's the poorest in the world and the poorest countries in the world that are the most hit. And so if you've got any interest in social justice and in international justice and in development issues,
just human
you
rights.
have to take this stuff on board, because the inequality around this, historical and in the present day, is absolutely huge.
It is obscene. I mean, you think about the climate debt. Most of the people who are suffering the most are largely carbon neutral. Like 50. I mean, I know 50% of the planet still cook on wood fires, but that's carbon neutral. That's green carbon, so to speak, not the black carbon they talk about. Yeah, the negative carbon usage. Sure. Whereas your top 1% of like Europeans and Americans have got footprints which is like 2,500 times more than anyone else on the planet. It's weighted very heavily.
And the island nations who were key in the talks in really pushing for this limit of 1.5 degrees instead of 2 degrees, because if we go to 2 degrees, basically their islands just disappear under the sea eventually, because of emissions that go back 100 years and more. in the West that we've built, our economies have been built on that. So there's a need for compensation there, and
there's historical responsibility.
Yes, absolutely.
Because a lot of them, they haven't had an industrial revolution. They don't drive around in gas-guzzling cars that spit out fossil fuels. They don't have coal-powered power stations. They don't have oil-fired gas central heating.
Sure. And there's an opportunity for those most of those developing countries and small islands to kind of leapfrog that into a cleaner technology and not go through that that dirty phase that Western development has been largely built on. Although having said that, I mean in India and in China there are a lot of coal-fired power stations and continuing to be built. But I mean that development path can still be shifted.
Of course, I mean that's why I think Africa is really going to come into its own, which I think is going to be highlighted, which we'll get on to more towards the end of the show, about the next talks, the COP22 in Marrakesh, because that's going to be Africa.
One of the good things to come out of the Paris talks was an agreement around towards $100 billion per year transfer to poorer countries to enable them to decarbonise, for them to adopt cleaner technologies and not add to the problem. The West and the richer countries do not want to talk about compensation, but they do see it as in their interest and everyone's interest to make sure that the world decarbonises, and in order to do that, even if you're not calling it compensation, you're going to have to inject some funds towards those poorer countries to make that possible. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
How did it feel when you first got to Paris?
Well, we had a great ride there, and then arriving, there was that apprehension that you talk about, because it's all about coming off the ferry. I mean, we thought we might be greeted by the police there and told to get back on and go home.
Right.
So it was a good start being greeted by the mayor, and then all the way through we had ways in
going into schools. The school children, they loved you. They were all banging on their tables.
We stopped at a small place called Fresneuse, just outside of Paris, and were greeted by a bunch of school kids there who'd made banners and all sorts of other stuff for us to take to Paris, actually, and that was beautiful. So all the way along, it was a very positive reaction to us, which was it was a great relief to us. But no, we loved it. And then we were still apprehensive about arriving in Paris, because it was a state of emergency. There was a ban on any sort of demonstration. And but we wanted to arrive in style. We wanted to arrive making a statement. We'd gone all that
we want to make a noise.
Statement. We weren't going to just sheepishly arrive there and hope nobody noticed. So we had to address that. So the plan was to converge basically just on the edge of the centre of Paris. And then we cycled down the Grande Avenue de la Armée, which takes you to the Arc de Triomphe. And that was just fantastically exhilarating. We took over 2 lanes there, and then we hit the Arc de Triomphe. There's a massive roundabout. It's about 8 lanes of traffic wide, and we blocked that whole roundabout in order to get the bike safely onto there. And then down the Arc de Triomphe, and with our whistles blowing, with our sound systems pumping, with the flags flying, and everyone was really ecstatic. It was fantastic. We could see these blue flashing lights though coming up the other side of the Arc de Triomphe, of the Champs-Elysees, and here we go. And a few vans pulled up and stacks of riot police piled out.
Was it just the gendarme, or was it for just full riot police or military?
These were the full-ons, and they're all kitted out. They were.
Stormtroopers have arrived. I like Star Wars, but hang on a minute.
No, here we go. Yeah. We got this far, but it looks like we're going to wind up the night in police cells. But no, they surrounded the ride off on the pavement, and took us off the road. And they were sort of kettled, where you're surrounded by the cops. We spent about 20 minutes. I was DJing, so I was putting on a bit of Bob Marley, and we had One Love, Sing It Out, and. Some of the police were sort of, almost they're bobbing along, and they're mouthing the words to it as well, which is a good sign. Yeah. And we had a good negotiator as well, talking with the police. And within a few minutes of that, they said, "Okay, we're going to let you through. More than that, you're to go through every red light, and we're going to escort you. We're going to block all the roads." down to the Place de la Concorde. So as long as you take up no more than one lane, that's all right, fair enough, that's a good deal. So we were delighted. We were shouting out slogans in French, justice, climatique, and then we stopped down the Place de la Concorde and we had a little rally there and some speeches and a lot more noise, a lot more disco music going.
Good.
And then the police said, I'll tell you what, where are you staying? We'll take you right into town and escort you all the way. Absolutely, we might as well have been a presidential motorcade or something. It was a great welcome, and we were delighted, and we arrived in style, and then that was on the Thursday. The Saturday we joined this huge demonstration in that same part of town.
I'll tell you what, before we go further, you're right for a drink. I might have a top up. Have a top up at home. 2 seconds, I'm just going to... So, we've got to Paris. The talks are on. You've been welcomed by the police, which I think was probably kind of popped a big bubble of tension once you kind of got through the kettle.
Sure. Yeah.
So you're there. All of a sudden, it's not. Obviously, please don't think me bad, but it's not just you, couple of hundred riders coming over from England. You merge with all the other people in Paris.
Sure.
Red line thing. What's all this?
Sure.
What's
well, this was it was a fantastic demonstration that was organised again, starting from the Arc de Triomphe and up from there. Tens of thousands of people.
What day was this?
So this is a couple of days later on the Saturday, which basically marks the end of the talks.
Yeah.
And the red lines. The idea was to along that road with thousands of people. Everyone was wearing red, had red umbrellas, red banners, to form this huge human red line. But really, the red line is about this far and no further. So when it comes to climate change, we need to be very clear that there are certain things that cannot be tolerated. We need to keep fossil fuels in the ground, and we need to be addressing those red lines. What are the limits here? And so the red lines represent that. I think, the talks finished that day, and there was an announcement made while that demonstration was going on. I think that's been portrayed very positively. And
the 1.5.
The 1.5. It's no mean thing to get 200. Best part of 200 countries,
task.
To agree on anything. So I appreciate that.
That's a lot of diplomacy.
And I think the French diplomats have gone to a hell of a lot of effort to draw something out of the conference that people could agree on. And the island nations, as I mentioned, were keen on the 1.5. In a way, 2 degrees was always dodgy because it was always potentially going to tip us into runaway climate change anyway. So 1.5 is a much safer limit. Is definitely progress, and that could be agreed on is an achievement. Great. And the other achievement is that transfer of money and resources to poorer countries. Yeah. So that's a win. So it's not all bad at all. Having said that, this 1.5 it's an aspiration that everyone can agree on, but where is the action that's going to deliver that? And that's what was not coming out. There was no agreement around, no binding agreement around limiting emissions, around limiting the extraction of coal, oil and gas. And without that, we're not going to hit 1.5. And
they're saying it's more like 2.7.
Absolutely, 2.7 could be 3. And once you hit that kind of temperature rise, you start you start getting out of control. And these. It's
not just that. What plays on my mind is, sorry for interrupting your flow there, but it's like just a 1 degree rise in ocean temperature has bleached remarkable amounts of coral reef. And just for chatting to other people like Atlanta for the marine conservation, and hello Atlanta, and Rich from the Biosphere. Hey Rich, hope you're tuning in. Saying that 1 degree shift, even though it's like a fair bit of coral just bleaching and dying off, 80% of sea life is focused around the coral reefs. We've lost 90% of the big fish in the last century, and we've lost 52% of all wildlife population since 1970 when I was born. Right.
Yeah.
Hello, and that's not a linear thing. That's an exponential curve. That's like a dive bomb going wow, 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 wow.
Yeah, we're going through a mass extinction at the moment. We're living through it.
That's the scare. That is the big fear, and that's what does my head in. Because then, after all the talk, not walking the walk, Amber Rudd. And then within the day of coming back, pulled all the subsidies for renewable energy and sustainable fuels and all that kind of thing, all the green energy. But there's still £1 billion of subsidies going to the oil and the gas.
Sure.
And hang on a minute,
it's all the wrong way at the moment in this country.
Could that be any more hypocritical? And that might be any more kind of two-faced.
Sure.
You know.
Sure.
I did the Avails petition, sent it back in. I said, you've got more faces than Brighton Clock Tower. So just to weigh up, what's your thoughts about COP22 in Marrakesh, in Morocco? That's a bit of a lot farther ride, isn't it?
Yeah, mind you. Yeah,
but
you won't have the
climate might be a bit better.
The cold wind, hopefully, and the rain.
As long as you're not up on the Atlas Mountains.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel I have to go to every blooming COP that there is. I mean, Paris, as far as I'm concerned, is just down the road. It was a really important one this year. Yep. We had to be there. Thousands of people had to be there. I'm sure there'll be plenty putting the pressure on for Marrakesh, and they already are. So
I'd like to go to Marrakesh, though.
Well,
you know.
Okay, just don't fly, all right?
Yeah, don't fly. Yes, that's it. I was thinking more of an electric bike.
Yeah, all right.
You know.
Hitch a ride. Get the train.
Yeah. You know. Did you ever see on Lord of the Rings trilogy, the tree ants say that when they're going south, it feels more like going downhill. And I was thinking, I bet that'll be all right until you see the Pyrenees in front of you.
Sure.
Like, that's quite a big mountain range.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to be cycling to Marrakesh, but I bet some people will be, and good luck to them. And we need to keep the pressure on, and this issue is not going away anytime soon. It's going to just grow and grow and grow. Yeah. So the quicker we get our heads around it, then the better for everyone, and it's going to take a lot more COPs before we get to that. I think also people feel powerless in it. They think, what can I do? But you know, there are some great examples of stuff going on, and I think latch onto that, look at the solutions, and don't want to be just depressing about this issue. And even in Brighton and Hove, we've got the Rampion wind farm going up over the next few years. Yep. That will power enough more households than the whole of Brighton and Hove.
I like what Howard John says. Howard's going to be on the next show, by the way, which is going to be out on. If you're watching on Christmas Day, it'll be on Sunday. If you're watching repeat, you'll have to have a look at the TV guide. Howard Johns is just got a book out on renewable energies, and he's
the energy revolution.
He's fantastic to listen to. And what he says
full of
is
good news stories. That
positive, really positive. Yeah. And basically, all the solutions are there. Mm-hmm. Every solution for all the problems we need, besides the mythical carbon capture and storage BS, but which doesn't work and doesn't seem to exist, and geoengineering.
Well, even if it does, it's not going to be enough. No. Even if it did in the future, it's not enough. We've got to do this other stuff. Yeah. And in Brighton, we've got some great examples as well. Community energy projects. We've got the Brighton Energy Co-op. Yeah. We've got Besco. Buy shares in that and help them to put more solar panels on more rooftops or other types of renewable energy and get a return on your investment. You can get 5% return on that kind of. Absolutely. So it can make financial sense from people. Change your electricity supplier. Get
over the old ecotricity.
Yeah, good ecotricity, good energy. Get rid of your car. I mean, do you really need it? A lot of people actually don't. They think they do, but they don't. And you make your life a hell of a lot easier for yourself. Don't have to worry about parking and MOTs and all the rest of it. So there's all sorts of things we can all be doing individually, and there's great projects around us to
I've
support.
Switched over to Ecotricity. Eco-City. Ecotricity, and it's cheap, and it's all green. It's all eco.
Sure.
Fantastic. So it's ethical, ecological, and economical.
Put LED bulbs in. I mean, I notice here in your studio, I can feel the heat of those lights.
Off
but
the park
you ought to be using LEDs here.
Yeah.
Easy to do. The solutions are there.
And like I say, the motto of the minute is growing concerns, thinking planetary, joining in locally, and doing things yourself. If you know that there's something that needs doing and you know how to do it, get it done. If you can't do it on your own, go find like-minded people. If you don't know where to look, join in locally. How do you join in locally? Well, I think Brighton can it?
Brighton Climate Action Network, yes, do
Brighton
tag along with us.
Brighton Climate Action Network.
Yeah, so you can find us on Facebook or website, but we want to have a conversation with people about where we go next with that. So we want to be doing lots of stuff next year, 2016. And we want to have a conversation with members, with people who are interested as to where to put that focus in. So yeah, do join our Facebook site and get in touch. And we'll be organising some meetings next year to look at that and supporting all sorts of other projects during the next year because we need more action around climate change, and that's what the Brighton Climate Action Network is there to be doing. So we've done Paris, we've been there, we're back, and now it's beyond Paris, and we need to hold our governments to account.
Moving forward.
We need to be doing stuff in our communities, in our own lives, so we'll be doing stuff to support that. So watch that space and get into that space.
There you go. Brighter, bolder, cleaner, greener, stronger futures. And the meetings are actually very cool. The last one at Synergy Centre was a buzz.
Yeah.
You know, all day. And to be honest, some people were there all day. Some people just dropped in for certain talks, came in, then went off and had to do other commitments and all that kind of thing. And yeah, it's real good. There's a lot of people, all ages, all shapes, all sizes, all cultures. Don't be shy, just crop up. Come on, have a chat. And there's usually a bit of free food as well, eh? You know.
If there is a junk food project around, they've been brilliant at feeding us and feeding the riders as well.
Project,
so, absolutely.
They were on here a few months back. So yeah, Merry Christmas. See you next time. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Thank you.